deploying remarketing is so important, so important, because it takes away the need for you to have a one-on-one conversation with people. This is similar to automating your follow-up. And I'll tell you two use cases for remarketing. Number one is retargeting ads. And number two is remarketing to your existing or past buyers.
Welcome back to SEOleverage.com. My name is Gert, and today I've got a special guest, Daniel Pope from the Be Known agency. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hey there, Gert. Great to be on. Yeah, I'm excited here.
We have had really good conversations recently around how to improve businesses, how to really approach marketing probably from the right angle. So we see this mostly through the SEO and search marketing lens. But I know you and your agency have been on, you have a very holistic view about SEO and work all kinds of channel, which I really find interesting. In our conversations, it has come out, you have a really, which I think, really smart system about how to make a business more profitable. And I would really like you to share a little bit more about this.
Yeah, for sure. So we call them the profit levers. And right now we've identified 7 core profit levers. There's probably 45. But we're going to go through 7 for the sake of time. And just to give you a little spoiler alert, they are: number 1, fix your pricing. Number 2, eliminate or pause unnecessary expenses. Number 3, automate your follow-up. Number 4, implement upsells and cross sells and all those fun sells. Number 5 is leverage other people's audience. Number 6 is deploy remarketing. And number 7 is find the right team. Before we get started with those, I'll tell you a quick story. I was working with a lady, her name is Michelle, and she was a client of ours. And she came in and she was selling physical CDs out of her spare bedroom, audio training CDs, a course on a physical CDs. And so she was doing around $4,000 or $5,000 a month using Facebook ads to drive in the traffic. And she had hired an advertiser overseas, and it was a time difference and everything. And anyway, it was working. But she was spending $3,000 to make $4,000. So cool, $1,000 profit. Well, for a stay-at-home mom, it's not too bad. But wait, then she had the cost of CDs, and then she had the cost to ship them out, and then she had her time cost to drive to the store and ship them out and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, she was breaking even, maybe profiting a couple bucks here and there. She frantically posted online, said, "I need help. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I need help." And I saw that post. A couple of people actually recommended me to her on that post, and we got to work. I immediately came in. She was looking for advertising. So we came in and started fixing all of her advertising. We fixed it all. So she was starting to gain momentum, but I said, wait a second, there could be so much more. She was not satisfied making $2,000, $3,000 a month. I wasn't either, because I love working on a performance basis, and it's not fun for $2,000 percentage of that. But I said, let's pause everything for a second. And what we did was we took a holistic view of her entire online ecosystem. We saw that she had 6,000 people in MailChimp she had never emailed. We saw that she had 25,000 people on YouTube. We saw that she had 1,000 followers on Instagram. So what we did was we looked at everything. We said, Michelle, what do you actually want to be doing? She said, well, I love teaching people how to use Facebook Lives to sell more. So that's brilliant. Okay, great. So we helped her create this course. We put together a very simple funnel. The word of the day is simplification. You'll hear me use examples of that throughout. A very simple funnel that was register for the training, watch the training, and then have some follow-up email sequences, all automated. We went out there, and over the weekend, we launched that, and she made $52,000 USD at 100% profit margins because we didn't use ads. And then I realized, that's it. She's got a spark. Okay. So over the next 18 months, we scaled her system up to $1.7 million in gross revenue at 60% profit margin. She doesn't mind me sharing these numbers. I say that because all 7 of those profit levers are woven throughout. Number 1, fix your pricing. That doesn't mean reduce your pricing. That doesn't necessarily just mean increase your pricing. It means look at your things and say, what do people want? How much are they willing to pay for it? And What are the different ways that I can offer it to them such that I remain profitable? I'll tell you another example in a second about that, but eliminating unnecessary expenses. Well, she didn't really have a ton of expenses, but she had what we called a badvertiser, right? What does that mean? Well, a badvertiser is a term that I use to say an advertiser who's bad. Let me just put it bluntly. Somebody who doesn't understand the holistic system. Far too often, I've seen my clients who have hired an advertiser that then blames the funnel builder or the copywriter or even the CEO because the ads don't work. They're not working. Or a advertiser is somebody who just talks about vanity metrics like you got a good click through rate, you got a good engagement rate or impressions or frequency. Okay, but what about leads and purchasers or return purchasers? What are we doing here, folks? That's a advertiser. So we got rid of him. We came in, but we got rid of him, or she did anyway. At that point in time, I was not confident enough to pause or terminate people. And then we automated her follow up. I mentioned earlier a very simple system. You're probably understanding by now that it was a simple webinar presentation. Register for the training,
Mhm.
join the presentation. It was actually a presentation that she put together. It was the illusion of live at that time. We could do that a couple years ago. But then afterwards, the follow up was automated. We followed up through email sequences. We followed up through chatbot. She had a really powerful mini chat system. That was another thing that she had. She wasn't even using. Somebody built her out a mini chat system, and it was a full complex thing.
It's really interesting. First of all, we see this a lot. So with the advertisers, you always find something that's going well, right? So if you want to report to a client something as an agency, there's always something that goes well, right? Always something going up, always something that's good to impress, which is why we at some point said, well, let's focus on conversions for a start and then ultimately on revenue, but first at least on conversions because people couldn't care about less views and click-through rates, etc. if those things don't convert. So this is a
Yes.
really interesting point. But I also see this a lot where people have a lot of stuff and are not leveraging it. So I bring up things like how about a quiz funnel to leverage some SEO traffic, for example, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
they don't use it, but they know that yeah, we are paying this tool, but we don't use it, right? Like this is $50, $100 a month, or we have
Yeah.
purchased it for 2,000. It was like a lifetime deal, but we never used it really. Nobody knows how to use it on the team, etc. I think tools, even as an SEO agency, we're used to spending a few $1,000s on tools every single month, and unfortunately, it's just the way it is. But it's also the advantage then when you are with an agency who's using those tools, you get some extra insights, have an added value there. But with tools, it's very, very easy to bring down the profitability. Yeah, absolutely.
It sure is. And going back to eliminating unnecessary expenses, I'll tell you a story about another client. We're working with another client. We still are, Brad, and he wishes for his business to remain a little anonymous, but he sells investor basically in courses on how to find an investor capital. Anyway, besides the point, when we came and started working with him, he was spending around 15, 20,000 dollars. Yes, in software expenses. And I had to take a look at it. I was saying, what is going on? I've never seen it that high. He was getting so much traffic in organically that there were overages on his Wistia account, overages on his Vimeo account, overages on his Vitalytics account. Yes, he was using 3 different video systems and he was just paying for the largest plans. So when we came in and took a look at his system, that's what we always start with, the plan. We took a look at his system, sat down for a week or so and said, what are all the things on the table? Great, he's getting this traffic in. Wonderful. But he's not remarketing, retargeting, remarketing, but more so, Brad, we can come in and consolidate your video platforms. We can come in and eliminate some of these unnecessary expenses. And man, we can pop 5,000, 10,000 bucks back into the business on day 2. And so we did. And that immediately paid for any sort of upfront costs that he incurred from us. So I say all that to say, take stock of what you're paying for. And if you're savvy enough, pull a profit and loss report, whether you're using QuickBooks or Zero or any accounting software or a spreadsheet. Take a look at that at least once a month, if not every quarter, and review what you're paying for.
Absolutely.
So
We've come to even then copy this into a spreadsheet. I have a weekly meeting with our accounting person where we go through some normal accounting stuff. Before we end the call, we always check this list where she pretty much lines up all the subscriptions that we have. We mark those ones I want to get rid of in orange. We mark them in red when it's about when they are canceled. We have just a very good understanding. I have no idea when I was still on my own when I started out. I have no idea how much money I wasted on tools, which I was not able to use. If you're just one person, you can only use so many tools in a day if you also work, right?
yeah,
But we got really, really good at tracking our expenses. I think we even this year, I think we brought them down just with tools like by 20, 25%, just by seeing we have two tools that do exactly the same thing. Where do we have tools nobody likes to use? Maybe I imposed them at some point because I like them, and then the team just ends up using something else or doing it in a different way, and it also brings up the same results. And it's very important that you have like this transparency. And then what we also found is that sometimes entire parts of the business that rely like on a heavy, high-priced tools are not even profitable. So this is where
yeah,
for profitability we have found out, and also with a few clients where we just say, okay, let's run the numbers on this particular part of the business where you have those $2,000 you pay in tools and you have two people working on this, etc. What is this particular part actually doing? And you work out what this means in profitability, and you say, okay, there are several parts of the business that are completely not profitable, and there's no way to make them profitable. As soon as we can assess, and this is then where clients are, okay, now looking at the numbers, it's a different game. And this is why I like marketing, or in our case SEO, so much. You have a very automatically, when you talk a lot with clients, and you get a very good overview about their business, and very
yeah,
often without wanting you become some kind of business consultant or business coach. Or my Q&A calls I do on Thursdays for my clients very often are more coaching calls than SEO calls, because they just come off and say,
yeah,
I have so much, just got my email marketing system built, etc., or just got my server hosting, like you said, the add-on pricing you have there, etc. And as we had a client who literally had 80% irrelevant traffic. So they were paying excess for server, excess for everything, like you say. And then you look at the
yeah,
traffic coming in from organic search, and you say, look, 75, 80% have nothing to do with what you're doing purchasing. She just had a mechanism where her team and her clients would publish blog content on her site, completely irrelevant, whatever they wanted to talk about. And she suddenly had become an online magazine, spending hosting fees like an online magazine, but not driving conversions. From the costs, let's move a little bit up. What is this automatic follow-up you were mentioning?
yeah.
What is this about?
So automating your follow-up, whether that's an email sequence, we used to use chatbots. I'm not going to touch on that much anyway, but email sequences, SMS marketing, text message marketing sequences, those are the main two. So if you can come in and instead of having somebody send out a single email to one person each time, right? Like in a CRM or just a salesperson follow-up, if we can automate that follow-up through email sequences, MailChimp does this well, ConvertKit does this well, a funnel building platform, you can do it in some cases. But if you can automate that follow-up, that is so powerful. So back to Michelle, she was CDs, but she didn't have any sort of abandoned cart sequence, meaning if somebody came in and she got their info when they filled out the first step of the order form, nothing happened after that. They were gone with the wind. And only about, if I remember correctly, she had a really great conversion rate on that front end. 7% of people from her traffic were buying straight up, but that means 93% of people went whispered into the wind. So I sat down, and over the next couple of days, I wrote out an abandoned cart follow-up sequence, and I put it in, and she started making back $100 per day, like clockwork. Free money. It was found money. So $100, 30 days, 3K. It's not bad. It's
Not bad.
100% profit margins. So if you haven't taken stock of your funnels or websites or landing pages or opt-in pages or whatever you want to call them, and seeing your follow-up sequences after somebody opts in, after somebody buys, after somebody doesn't buy, please take stock and see what you're missing. There's so much found money out there. There's so many little pools, and that's exactly what we have to come in and do, because there's so much, right? All the business owners are completely inside of the jar, and they cannot see the label from inside the jar. So we have to come in and look at it outside the jar. And there's So many different ways, but that's automating the follow up right there. Very simple explanation. Abandoned cart sequences, welcome sequences, sequences after they purchase to push into something else. Hey, you forgot to book a call, etc.
It makes a lot of sense. I have one question probably because we are a little bit in a different situation as an agency. So we don't have like an info product. People are going to assess differently probably. I have found one-on-one conversations really be driving our sales, our conversations forward. We are also doing automated sequences. We automate the one-on-one conversations as much as possible with the CRM. Know, okay, when to actually take the time, reach out to somebody, record a quick video, send them something. How would you say when does one-on-one make sense and when should it be automated?
So you've got to think about the product market fit. And what I
Mhm.
mean by that is an agency, or in our case, we have shifted more towards consulting first, and then we can provide the services too, versus an info product business,
Mhm.
versus a brick and mortar plumbing or lawn care business. And so you got to think about who is that person? What do they want to, how is the buyer journey? And so for us, and probably similar to you, we don't have a lot of automated sequences that go out. We've tried them. They don't get great open rates and click through rates. We've rewritten them over the past 5 years multiple times. And there was a light bulb that went off, probably similar to you, that said, we're not selling a course. This is not an info product business. They really don't care about my origin story or welcome sequence. I need to be going out there and having face-to-face conversations like you and I, Gert, have. And I need to be traveling to events. I need to be in person. And then I need to be following up with manual points of touch. So in our case, we just use a CRM called Pipedrive. Super simple, whether it's Pipedrive or HubSpot or even ActiveCampaign. And we have little reminders that follow up. And then we follow up pretty consistently in the beginning, and then we let it taper off a bit. And then so it's once every quarter, once every 6 months if they're not responding. But we had a client come in just recently and he said, guys, the fact that you followed up with me over the past 3 years, once every 6 months, once a year, I'm now a client. You're still in business. You didn't die.
Yeah.
And we said, no, we're still here. So
It's so important
that's what I say.
to play the long game. I had a client come to me after like 2 years and say, "You remember this conversation? You just started out with such and such, and we had this conversation." And I did actually remember the website, which was funny. But he said, "Yeah, now we are ready." It's like, yeah, that's great. We do exactly the same thing, much better, obviously, 2 years later. But we do exactly the same thing. Let's get started. It was like talking to an old friend. We use Pipedrive as well, and I really like it. I used it years ago already in one of the first versions, and I think it's come a long way. For me, it's just always important that we streamline the process as much as possible. I don't want to have to think about who have I not talked to recently. It just needs to be automated. But we've come to a moment where we pretty much follow up with every lead manually at some point, as soon as we see like the slightest form of interest. It's funny because I just told this story on another podcast. I think when I was starting out as a freelancer, one of the first tools I got was ActiveCampaign for automation sequences,
Yeah.
because I thought this looked really cool. You get those email addresses, you don't have to worry about it. Just send a sequence once and that's it. Obviously, nobody bought off those sequences. I was a freelancer. I had hardly any projects as references or anything. But it seemed like very often it's like those shiny objects, they just make a lot of sense. You see it, you say, okay, this is really what I'm missing. This makes a lot of sense, but it might not be the ideal thing for you. The ideal thing for you might be to have a low priced offer and then upsells or cross sells to something else. It might be working much, much better. I know this is one of your profit levers, these upsell, cross sell things. I would love if you can talk to this a little bit. Maybe this was also something Michelle was leveraging.
Yeah. Well, upsells and cross sells. And what does that mean? Well, it means to offer a complimentary product. If you're in e-commerce selling pins or bracelets, it means offer more or offer something congruent to what they just bought. And if you're even partnered with another company, you can offer a cross sell into that company. Anyway, I think about Michelle and a couple of our other clients, and you've probably seen these pages before. But as soon as they buy the first thing, hey, buy this CD, or hey, buy this course or toolkit or boot camp or pin or bracelet or whatever it is, then the next page, but wait, there's more. It's an infomercial, right? And so what you're trying to do with cross sells and upsells and even downsells are to raise the average order value. I think about AOV, average order value, as somebody's going into the grocery store with their cart or buggy, and they're going through the line and they're checking out. This guy had $50. The next guy had $50. The next guy had $75. The next guy had $100. So they bought different things, right? Nobody's cart is the exact same, but the average order value of those carts, those buggies in line over a given period is the average order value. And forgive me if I don't get this correct, but $75, $50, 75, 50, 100, 75, 50. What does that average out to? $60. Maybe that's not exactly correct, but the average order value is $60. So then I know I have $60 to spend to acquire that buyer, or they're paying me an average of $60 if they're already in the system and I'm not using any sort of paid traffic to acquire. So cross sells and upsells are so important when you're trying to raise that average order value. If you're trying to justify find product market fit with a minimum viable product and you have sources of traffic that aren't paid, you don't really have to worry about cross sells and upsells too much. I'm more than happy to just go for it. But if you're just trying to find that first spark, boom, just sell the first thing. Sell the first thing, worry about the upsells and cross sells later. But it's a profit lever. We're talking about profit levers, not minimum viable, right? So Gert, that's a really quick rundown over cross sells and upsells. I'm happy to go more into it though.
Maybe in another episode we want to keep this
Yeah.
as efficient as possible, but it's definitely worth taking out. We have really a lot of different stories where people just really come in and say, okay, they get a quick audit from us, which is a quick assessment of their website and have a chat with me, etc. But then say, okay, in the quick audit, there might be like, it might make sense to have another second consulting session on top of this a little bit later, or like check out a different website for a little bit of an additional fee. So there are a lot of ways to leverage this in all kinds of ways, and especially info products. If somebody also already says yes to your $99 course, they might say yes to like a $20 upgrade as well. We see this all the time, and it's just this moment where it's okay, I've made up my mind, I make this purchase, I'm going to invest. And then you have got this fear of missing out, like this extra piece. Maybe it's that wasn't this piece that actually makes this worthwhile, right? I want to tap into remarketing a little bit. I have a story here myself, which was really interesting. I saw this. We had this site. This was in tourism a few years back, tourism to the United States, and they were getting tons and tons of traffic, but really like a low conversion rate. It took me a while to talk this person into doing something about it. We got them to a really good place. This was in a Spanish site promoting their tourism offer to the United States. So we brought this site up to I don't know, several thousand visitors, I think, a day, and only a fraction of them bought. It was like a low ticket $20, $20 or $50 product or something like that. And I was like, let me try this for 3 months, right? I want to run a remarketing campaign, show these people some banners after they have been here and not purchased. Very simple. We don't do complex pay that stuff. But it was really interesting because within 2 weeks, they had made back the money they spent on SEO. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not costing anything anymore. So let's continue to do this because it just straight out works. But it's really a little bit against this expectation where people say, okay, if somebody comes to my website and doesn't take action, they're never going to buy. What do you think about this assumption?
Yeah, that is a false assumption, number one, because this profit lever is about remarketing. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. But it's so common. For some reason, in the info product space, which is what we primarily focus on, digital products, coaching, course sales, anyway, people are afraid to ask. Our clients are, when they first start working with us, they're afraid to ask for the sale. And we have to consult them through, how do you get over that? Why is that? I'm no mindset coach, but I've been around the block enough time to see patterns. And so we could spend all day on that. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at here is deploying remarketing is so important, so important, because it takes away the need for you to have a one-on-one conversation with people. This is similar to automating your follow-up. And I'll tell you 2 use cases for remarketing. Number 1 is retargeting ads. And number 2 is remarketing to your existing or past buyers. I'll tell you a story about number 1 real fast. So we were working with a company early on that was selling t-shirts. They were selling t-shirts for national parks and pets. National parks, people love those. Pets, people love those. So it was hot. He was making around $30,000 a month, but he was not using any sort of retargeting ads. And I was sitting there perplexed. In my mind, I was saying, this is standard stuff, man. But once again, you can't see the label from inside of the jar. He thought he was doing everything right. And he was just launching new shirts, no retargeting ads. With that being said, we came in, we assessed the situation, we took stock of everything he was doing, noticed that he was not using retargeting ads, and we came in and implemented our advertiser to deploy retargeting ads. Boom, boom, boom. Over the next 3 months, he shot up to $100,000 at 30,000 or 30% profit margins. 30,000% profit margins. He started making $100,000 months, 105 if I remember correctly, at 30% profit margins. And it was due to retargeting. You're saying that is insane. Yes. And there are many more stories I can tell about that. Little things, 2 millimeter shifts, as Tony Robbins called them, simple. And on the other vein, and Gert, we can come back to retargeting in a second, but on the other vein, remarketing, sending emails, sending follow-ups, sending text, offering something to your past or current buyers, clients, purchasers, whatever you want to call them, is so, so, so important. Because if somebody buys from you, let's say they bought a course or a bracelet or a pin or a boot camp or a challenge, well, they're interested. So don't leave them hanging. This is probably one of the top 5 reasons why our clients have not had a lot of success in the past. They just stop telling people that they have other offers for sale. Hey there, you purchased this challenge. Are you interested in this higher level engagement, a $2,000 program? They might not buy immediately, but if you continually follow up or relaunch every quarter or do something else or have an evergreen sequence in place, you're going to make profit. So retargeting ads and remarketing or talking to your past buyers are so important.
Absolutely. It's funny because I found this out the hard way, really, where I would tell people in the consulting at some point. I mean, link building is a big thing for SEO. We usually start off with consulting, technical SEO, make sure everything is fixed, it's aligned with the strategy, we have the conversions, etc. And then at some point, okay, let inject like extra authority and give this a little bit of an impulse with links. I remember a conversation where I talked about this with a client, and they said, yeah, I've heard about link building, but I have no idea who could actually be doing this. Right. And this was like a shocking moment. We have like a services section, and in the services section, it says link building. And then link building, we have offers. You can purchase this off the website. You have this feeling like if somebody purchases one product, they have to have an idea about everything you're selling. But even if it's just a handful of products or services, like in our case, I remember it's not clear, right? They have decided, okay, they want consulting or get consulting. They have get great value out of it, but they don't remember. They don't go to your website back and say, do they have this and do they have that? You need to kind of proactively put it in front of them or show there is value in this. Show, look, we can provide this, or our info product, our course also has this additional coaching model for accountability or what it is, in order to make sure. And these are people that already trust you, right? These are people who already trust you. They stick with you because they trust you. They know how you operate, how you work. It's a very easy decision for them to actually then take the next step. I want to slowly come to an end, but really focus on this, on the 2 last points I think we haven't touched upon. One is focusing on other people's audience, which is definitely a big one, I think, especially for new client, new projects. What about those audiences other people have we can get access to?
Yeah, I'll talk about OPA, other people's audience, right? You've probably heard of OPM, other people's money. I think about it like this. Tom Cruise, one of the most well-known movie stars in the entire world, does not get on his phone and send direct messages to people. Hey, come buy a ticket to my movie. No, he gets on Good Morning America, Good Morning Europe, UK. He gets on all these shows, right? And he goes on and talks about his upcoming movie, Conan O'Brien, The Tonight Show, or whatever show that he's doing, even a press tour. So he leverages those audiences of people that these hosts have built up, right? They get millions of eyeballs, and he says, yeah, watch my movie. It's coming out May 31st or whatever. And they go see the movie. So he does not have to DM people individually. He just leverages other people's audiences. His people do, most likely. He just shows up. That's a big example. On a more relatable example, we had a client one time, and she had come up with this idea of a new coaching program. She ran an agency for years, and she ran a placement agency. And so she helped people find jobs. Now, she came up with this new coaching program. We determined it was the price point to be $2,500 at first. And it was going to go through 12 big modules about how to get your first 5 clients as a freelancer. That's awesome. That'd pay for the program in the first 30 days, but she had no traffic. So what we did was we identified her dream 100. You probably heard that term before. And nothing crazy. It's just the 100 people that you would want to promote your product or service or offer right then. And it's a long game, but she went out there and she DM'd a couple people. And the one that responded was a lady with an audience of about 30,000 Facebook group members. And she said, yes, I'd love to partner up. I love your idea. I have people all the time asking me for it, but I don't have anything to help them. And so what she did was she went live in the group with this owner, the group owner, and then she got permission to direct message with her team, the people in the group. Long story short, over the next 6 months, she sold $300,000 of this coaching program.
That's impressive.
And the rest is history. She started with nothing, just an idea. She had an agency, but she didn't have any online presence. She used her expertise to build this thing alongside us. And then she went and marketed it. All we had to do was sit down and identify who already has the people, who already has your ideal buyer, who already has the attention of those people. And that's OPA, other people's audiences, in a nutshell.
It's interesting how we often tend to not think big enough, right? Everybody knows that if I can get this one client, they are going to talk to their friends in the golf club about my business, and they might get two other clients, right? But you don't focus on this person you've been following for a while, who's got 30,000 people in their Facebook group, and would be more than happy to do this in exchange for some sort of compensation, or sometimes even without compensation if they think your product is good enough. So it's really about like thinking a little bit bigger and say, okay, who do they actually already trust? Who could bring me in front of them and lead into his group and leverage this connection and this trust they already have, right? I see this especially for new businesses. I've been doing quite some work in the SaaS space as well, and this is like one of the recommended ways to get a SaaS, a software as a service, off the ground, is just partnering up with other brand that already have this. You integrate with their software, you get in front of their audience, run webinars together. It's just the quickest way in order to get some traction really and get known and get some case studies out there, rather than going one by one. But in order to then deliver to such a big audience, you obviously can't do this on your own, right? I've been doing my one-man show for too long. Honestly, one of the biggest mistakes I made was hire too fast, start hiring too late, really. Right now we are 30 people on the team and growing, and it's really like the best thing ever. We just appointed our operations manager here to make sure that the team and the operations, day-to-day operations, are being taken care of, even if I spend my time on strategy calls. But yeah, team building for me is like the most important building block. But I wonder how you think about it when it comes to a profitability point of view, because you call it a profit lever. How does this work?
So, in a nutshell, finding the right people can be the difference between you stuck at $10,000 months or on track to do a $10 million year. And that's a very broad range. But more realistically, stuck at $10,000 months or making your first $1 million year, right? And that's very attainable when you think about it. So, I mentioned earlier about bad advertisers. If your advertiser is just talking about vanity metrics, if he's sucking you dry, get rid of him or her. But I default to him. Advertisers are going to suck you dry. You know, the wrong personnel in your business, if your virtual assistant just sucks, if you're constantly having to explain to them what's going on or reteach them things you've taught before, you need to find somebody new. If you're using the wrong agency or if you're using the wrong partner, you got to find the right people. This one's a little self-explanatory, Gert, but most oftentimes people are afraid to fire or pause. And I don't say that lightly. What I mean is I'm going to use the advertiser example. Somebody has an advertiser in place. Well, they've had to use the brain power to source, interview, maybe vet that person for references or case studies, hire, onboard, and then maybe manage, right? If they're hiring an advertiser or an advertising agency, they're most likely thinking, I don't have to manage this person. They know enough. Okay, hey, just go send me a report every week. Well, that's how advertisers happen. So in their mind, they're thinking, okay, I've spent all this brain power on it. It's a sunk cost. Okay, I'm not like, so they're afraid to go out there and have the hard conversations that say, look, you're not performing. You're not pulling your weight. These are fluff metrics, vanity metrics. We've got to renegotiate. We've got to pause. We've got to terminate. We've got to do whatever. So finding the right people is so important. And it's a profit lever, because if you cut the wrong people, there's a lot of bloat in businesses. But when you cut the wrong people, your bottom line will increase. Now, of course, you want to fill that if it's an actual need, but your bottom line will increase. And that's not just your profit and loss, your financial bottom line. It's your tank, your energy tank, your stress level, your peace of mind. That will increase, that will improve. There's a million and four things I could say about this, but finding the right people is oh so important. Sourcing, hiring, partnering with people that have sourcing agencies, doing monthly and quarterly reviews, taking stock of who you actually have on the team, what you're paying for, what they're actually producing, right? We're in a fight or flight. We're in a situation right now, the world economy, where we need to be concerned about what they're producing. You know, Twitter, for example, this example, a lot of people got fired and a lot of people quit. Well, Twitter's still kicking. So we've heard recently that a lot of times there are way too many people, 2 to 5 times more than needed in these tech companies. Well, I promise you that is increasing the bottom line. Is it making them profitable? I don't know. I don't have access to that data, but it is improving the bottom line.
I think what I found most fascinating is very often, in my case, coming from a tech background, I found this a lot, that very often we see the tech person in the company be one person that has been around for 8 years, 10 years, always taking care of the website and the computers and the headset and the microphone and everything, and now takes care of the marketing. So this is just the tech guy, right? Mostly it's a guy. I hardly come across tech women taking care of for such a long time. Thankfully it's starting. I think women are definitely needed in this industry. But what's interesting is that the tech person very often makes strategic decisions without knowing it. So the CEO relying on the tech person, which software to pick, which CRM to pick, which ERP system to pick for the company, which can hold everything up. The person relying, we had a website, we had a client, international company making multiple 7 figures, rely on their agency and the CEO of that agency, who just likes to work websites the way he did 20 years ago. And I'm like, I pretty much put him out of business because I explained to the client what it means to rely on this opinion. So it's his opinion, respected. They have been working with him for a while. I just lined up, look, this could take 5 minutes or it can take 5 days, just depending on whether you use a current system or you go back to manually program this link into your website on every single page of your. It looked like when I started more than 20 years ago, they were working on this in 2022. This was a recent example, right? And it's this confidence. You think you trust this person and they might be doing this to the best of their abilities, but they might not have been keeping up with the trend and with the evolution. And they just have found a way that worked 20 years ago, still works, no question there. But there might be a very different way to do about this. And the second one I've seen is that people are very often too cheap. I can get someone do this for $50. I have seen clients literally pay $50 for a fix on their website. They give the master keys to their castle to someone on Upwork they come across, they look, here is the admin and here is my password. Go in there into my 6-figure business, fix this link and this image that's not showing well. And now I'm so happy because I only have to pay you $50 for this. And then a few months later, they suddenly have spam issues, attacks, they're losing data, they have clones of their videos up there on the internet for available for downloads, etc. So we need to be very, very careful. Very often, I think a good rule I've seen for the team is if you think about every single team member you have and you think, okay, now I know them really well after a few months or years, would I rehire them today? And if this is not a clear yes, you kind of need to have a very good reason why you keep them around.
Yeah, I agree. And, it goes back to having the monthly or quarterly reviews and actually checking their references, ask for references, check for references, review the case studies. And I mean, we could talk all day about that, Gert, but those are the profit levers, right?
Absolutely.
Like I said before, there could be 45, there could be 4,500, but those are the core 7 that we've identified right now that we've used to take 10 online businesses from 6 figures to over 1.7 million per year. And, 30 others from literally 0 to mid to high 6 figures. It's about going back to the basics. A lot of times people want to be cute with their marketing. when in actuality, it's about simplification, going back to the basics, understanding marketing 101, really.
Mhm.
But the basics, the fundamentals, the
Yeah.
foundations, if you don't have proper, strong foundations in your business, you're going to grow it and it's going to be like a stack of blocks, right? Ready to topple over at any moment's notice. And you'll feel it constantly. You'll feel stressed every single month. You're like, why can't we grow? Why aren't we? Whoa, 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 whoa. Well, you don't have proper foundations.
No,
Yeah.
it very often takes really an outsider to come in and look at this with like fresh eyes and really
Yeah.
reassess, okay, does this really make sense? Someone come here, are they going to be able to take the next step, take action? I find it, for me, it's really mind blowing that so you can do so many things with an existing business just by fine tuning little things like we do here. We go all in with link building and say, how can we do this better? How can you get more people open up our emails? We go to consulting and say, how can we maybe get people convert a little bit more? Can do here something, there that something, right? This continuous innovation, this continuous improvement of what we're doing and making sure that all the parts of this value chain are actually optimized to the best possible way. I want to just really quickly wrap this up. We talked about pricing, we talked about expenses, automation of the follow-up, cross-sells, upsells, leveraging other people's audience, one of my favorite topics here, definitely remarketing, and then find the right team. And in the team, really not only find the right team, but cut the team members that might be holding you up or might not be delivering to the best of your standards. I think this was really, really actionable, Daniel. I really appreciate that you took the time to walk us through. I love your stories. I love your examples. I love the results you're getting for your clients, which is amazing. Where can people go if they want to reach out to you and maybe have a look at their business with your outside expert eyes and with the experience you have on your back?
Yeah, so my company, Be Known, we're really focused on figuring out the plan first. And what we'll do is we can sit down and review everything in your business. Yes, everything. The profit level, focused on the profit levers like we talked about today. And then out of those, find about 7 to 10 different ways we can come in and implement immediately. We do not focus on SEO. That's why we have formed a partnership with Gert and SEO Leverage. But what we'll do is we'll figure out a 90-day plan, a 12-month plan, and then a 3-year vision for that. Exactly who you need at the right time, who we need to pause or cut, ways to find $5, $10, $25,000 in expenses. And we do all that in a very quick planning process. From there, if you need our help to do it, if you want to do it in-house, or if you need us to find the right team members, source them, we can take care of that too. And that's more of where our quote unquote agency services come into play. But we go by the saying, what got you here won't get you there. It's a book by Marshall Goldsmith, but you've got it to this point, but now you need somebody from the outside looking in. And so we do that. And if you're interested in that, you can schedule a call with me. We can chat all the way through that. We love working on performance basis as well, where if you don't win, we don't win. And so you can find us at beknownonline.com. That's BEKNOWN online.com. And really, we'll take stock of everything. And honestly, it's painless. It's fun for us. And man, as you can tell, we eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff. This is what we're
I
truly
love it.
passionate about.
I love it. Thank you so much, Daniel Pope from beknownonline.com. This is episode 105. You're going to find a written summary of this and the links on seoleverage.com/podcast. Find the episode 105. Thank you so much for the conversation, Daniel. I really enjoyed it. I hope we can have you back and dive into one or two of these profit levers a little bit deeper. I'm sure you have some really good strategies and stories about some remarketing or cross and upsells here. I think these topics are really, really important for our audience. I can see lots of potential here every single day on the projects we work with. SEO Leverage, my name is Gert Mellak. This was Daniel Pope. Thank you so much.